The Würth Modyf ISMF World Cup season 2022 is over, and what a season it was. 6 World Cup stages, 1 European Championships, 5 countries, 7 resorts and a total of 14 races in which 25 countries were represented. As always, however, this season was less about the statistics and more about human endeavour, and the drive, the passion, the pain and the suffering were evident throughout. None more so than in the season's eventual overall winners. Excitement was high as we headed to Ponte di Legno Tonale in northern Italy in December for the first event of the season and for the first live streaming. Emily Harp of France started this season a little-known entity, not even in the top 10 last season. Right off the bat, she won the first sprint race, beating the likes of Tove Alexandersson of Sweden and Mariana Jegerčíková of Slovakia. 3 days later, having been 6th in the vertical, she roared into 3rd place in the individual. An emotional finish line for the young French athlete as she finished just behind the iconic rivals Axel Gachet-Molleret of France and Tove Alexandersson.
I really never thought it would be possible to kind of be up against these girls like, Axel and Tove. They're just like amazing athletes, and to be able to kind of be at that level with them, it's just like a dream. Now I've got to kind of hold on to this kind of level season, so it's going to be exciting, yeah.
Meanwhile, in the men's races during that chilly weekend in December, Michele Boscacci of Italy started the season in his least favourite discipline, the sprint, finishing 25th. The previous seasons had been sporadic for the Patrouille des Glaciers record holder, and he hadn't won the season title since 2018. A change in training regime led, however, to his first podium place since 2019 as he came in 3rd in the vertical behind Rémi Bonnet and Werner Marti, the 2 Swiss uphill specialists. And on the individual race, he finished 2nd behind Xavier Gachet of France in what little did we know then was to become one of the individual race rivalries of the season.
Oggi una bellissima gara in ambiente, una vera gara di sci alpinismo, salite in traccia, discese fuori pista e soprattutto sono riuscito a tornare sul podio. Questo secondo posto mi dà veramente tanta motivazione perché mi mancava da un po', oltre al podio della vertical, molto contento del mio stato di forma attuale e spero di continuare così e magari riuscire a centrare anche una vittoria nel proseguo della stagione.
After a month off for Christmas, we find ourselves in the familiar and well-organised embrace of the Andorran Mountaineering Federation in January, in their 11th year of organising ISMF events. The battle between Axel Gachet-Molleret and Tove Alexandersson was beginning to heat up. Gachet-Molleret's overriding goal of the season was to win all the individual races and, as a secondary goal, all the verticals too. The French overall season title holder from 2021 already had 1 individual victory in the bag as she led the race from the get-go with Alexandersson hot on her heels, and it was a well-earned 3rd for Harp. Harp would stay in the 3rd spot on the vertical race the following day, where in an outstanding performance, Alexandersson beat Gachet-Molleret to the finish line by 12 seconds.
Yeah, it was amazing. It's the first vertical race I win, and Axel is a so strong athlete, so it's so cool to win this race. I'm really happy. I had to push everything I had, but I felt strong all the way.
Meanwhile, the men's individual race provided even more drama as the current world champion Matteo Edellin of Italy crossed the finish line first, but due to a penalty dropped down the rankings, giving Michele Boscacci his first win of the season. Boscacci's rivalry with Xavier Gachet was once again on show as they strode round together, Gachet eventually stepping onto the 3rd place of the podium.
Bon, aujourd'hui, c'était encore une très belle course. On s'est retrouvés encore un peu, Boscacci et moi ensemble un peu devant. Thibaut Anselmet qui est parti très fort aussi. Il nous a presque bien un peu fait mal au début. On a peut-être un peu trop joué au début pour être vraiment très fort à la fin, mais c'était bien. J'ai réussi à en garder un petit peu quand même et finir pas trop mal.
Neither Boscacci nor Gachet showed up near the top of the vertical the following day, leaving Rémi Bonnet of Switzerland to take his 2nd victory of the season. The surprise of the event, possibly of the season, was seeing the American Cameron Smith just being pushed into 3rd by 200ths of a second by the great Robert Antonioli of Italy.
This is very unexpected even for me, but when I felt good and I saw the front of the race, I just believed in myself and gave myself a chance, and I surprised myself and I had a great race, so I'm really, really happy.
By this stage, the Würth Modyf ISMF World Cup circus was in full swing, and Michele Boscacci and Tove Alexandersson found themselves at the top of the rankings, but with very little in it as we headed into the busiest part of the season. The next stop, Modyf in Switzerland, provided a rugged and exposed individual course. Raced in the shadow of the inimitable Dent du Midi, it was a firm favourite for many. The sprint race course too was varied and interesting, incorporating a ski cross style downhill. The women's final was a classic example of anything can happen in a sprint race.
Like Emily Harrop's boot isn't done up. Oh, and she's down. It's all happening here. Mariana Jegorčíková and Emily Harrop absolutely cruising, battling.
Giulia Morada of Italy also came a cropper. Tove Alexandersson had a mishap in transition, and only Mariana Jegorčíková came through unscathed, claiming her first sprint title of the season.
Emily was unlucky, she fell because of her boot, but it was really unexpected. And she was stronger than me today, I have to admit, and there was just a kind of luck interfering in the race.
In the men's sprint race, the competition between the 2021 overall sprint winner Arno Lieta of Switzerland and the Spaniard Oriol Cardona Coll was beginning to heat up. Lieta had won in Adamello in December, and his rival had something to prove. He did just that and took his first win of the season.
Lieta is a very strong sprinter, so it was really hard to push with him during all the sprint. It was really close, and we didn't know till the end who was going to win.
The next race would be Xavier Gachet's second win of the season over the very exciting individual course. Matteo Idalin was second, and Michele Boscacci's season went from strength to strength with a third place.
Sur les autres montées un peu plus techniques, moi et Xavier on sont ensemble. Et sur la dernière montée, il est arrivé Matteo derrière comme un avion. C'est vrai ski alpinisme, une bonne journée. Je suis très content pour la course et aussi pour mon résultat.
Out on the women's individual race, Tove Alexandersson unfortunately took a wrong turn and ended up near the finish line instead of back out on the course. As a result, Emily Harrop took second place behind Axel Gachet-Molleré's third win out of 3, with Alessandra Schmidt of Switzerland rounding out the podium.
Overloaded with emotions, it's very nice to have third place. My first podium ever, and at home it couldn't be better.
By the time the World Cup landed in Valtellina in Italy in February, the battle lines at the top of all the disciplines were drawn. A brand new individual course had to be designed in Val Martello due to lack of snow, and the Italians were the favourites. Xavier Gachet was happy to sit on Michele Boscacci's heels for the first part of the individual course, letting the local boy lead the way. Once again, despite powering through the pack to finish first, a penalty saw Matteo Idalin lose the win, giving Gachet his third win of the season and Boscacci another podium place in third. The brutal boot pack with crampons was quite the spectacle, and by then Tove Alexandersson had lost her lead over Axel Gachet-Molléré in the women's race. The French machine came home in her by now familiar first place, claiming 4 out of 4 victories. Emily Harrop took a well-earned third place, and then 2 days later she proved her mettle once more on the sprint, leading the final right from the start and winning convincingly. It was the young Spaniard, Oriol Cardona Coll, who won the men's sprint ahead of Arno Lieta, as all eyes started to point westward to the Spanish Pyrenees for the European Championships. The weather in Boitaúl in Spain was balmy and spring-like. The snow was thin on the ground, but the focus was razor sharp as the specialists geared up to take the European titles in their respective disciplines. In the men's sprint, the home vibes gave Oriol Cardona Coll his desired win on familiar turf. But the favourite for the women's title, Emily Harrop, was off the pace, and she finished third behind Tove Alexandersson and the ecstatic new European champion, Mariana Jegorčíková. Next up was the vertical race, and while it appeared short at 550 metres of climbing for all categories, rarely have we seen so many athletes so utterly exhausted at the finish line. It really took its toll, and there were some surprises on the podium. The dominance of the women's leading pack was dented by Sarah Dreher of Austria taking third place behind Axel Gachet-Molléré, who retained her European title, and Tove Alexandersson in second.
It's unbelievable. It's so crazy. A few days ago I had COVID, so I was not sure if I can stay here. And now I'm here, and I had the bronze medal. It's fantastic.
The big missing element in the men's vertical race was Rémi Bonnet. However, the deceptively tough course was a perfect match for his compatriot, Werner Marti, who smashed his way into his first European title. In behind him came Alex Oberbacher of Italy and Maximilien Drian of Belgium, both thrilled with their performances.
It's amazing to get such a result at the end because, yeah, I couldn't have dreamed of it. Yeah, my shape was increasing from race to race till Morgin, where I did a nice top 10 in the individual. So I knew I was fit, but yeah, last week was quite a struggle. So yeah, today was a really an amazing accomplishment for me.
After a rest day, the individual race dawned with athletes chomping at the bit to get going. The course, mostly on piste, was not a ski mountaineer's dream, but the organising committee had provided the best possible course given the conditions. Adding to the tension and excitement was the first live streaming of the individual race, shown around the world online and at home on Spanish TV channel Teledeporte. The battle at the top of the race was intense in both categories. First out, the women. Axel Gachet-Molleret and Tove Alexanderson swapped the lead several times, as did Werner Marti and Matteo Idalin an hour later in the men's race. Both races came down to the very last transition, 100 metres from the finish line, and the excitement was palpable. In the end, Gachet-Molleret defended her title and kept her clean sweep of individual races, and Marti took his second European title in a week.
I think we were both nearly dead at the end, but yeah, so nice to finish first. Yeah, I thought like the last uphills were only short ones, and I thought that's something for me in the transitions. I saw in the beginning that I'm not much faster, but a little bit faster, so I was quite confident that it could work, and yeah, it worked for me.
Husband and wife, Michele Boscacci and Alba Di Silvestro, took respective third places. Finally, after a very busy week, we witnessed the first ever Olympic format relay. The new format of a team of one woman and one man, each getting the chance to race the course twice, was fascinating to watch and to learn from. A great success, and featuring several married couples keeping family at the heart of SkiMo, it was fought furiously with eventual success for Emily Harrop and Thibaut Anselmet, taking the European relay title for France.
Je suis super content de gagner avec Émilie, on a fait une super course. C'était le premier relais mixte, donc on savait pas trop ce qui allait se passer, comment ça allait être avec les autres équipes. De toute façon, un relais c'est toujours intéressant, il y a toujours du stress, du suspense. On gagne, voilà, c'est super.
He may have slipped under the podium radar for most of the season, but Anselmet was not to be underestimated. Racking up points in all the disciplines, the young Frenchman was motivated to beat his overall season second place from 2021. And now, nearing the end of the winter, he was battling it out with Michele Boscacci for the overall title. Back to Italy and into Val Martello in the Italian and German-speaking Sud Tirol for the penultimate leg of the World Cup. Still not much snow, and with a shortened individual course, this event fell after a few weeks of long-distance racing for many of the athletes. Fresh legs for some though, and Davide Magnini of Italy won his first individual race of the season, leaving Rémi Bonnet in second with a well-earned third place for Xavier Gachet.
On the first climb I was just following Rémi, that was just pushing like a really hard pace, and in the downhill I was able to pass, taking some risks because there was really few snow, and on the third I said okay, now it's my moment, I have to try, so I gave it all and it was good.
After having paired up to win the Pierramenta, Axel Gachet-Molleret and Tove Alexanderson were once again doing battle at the front of the race. Alexanderson fought hard but succumbed once more to the seemingly unstoppable Gachet-Molleret, and Alba Di Silvestro took third place in her home country.
I really enjoyed Pierramenta and be together with Axel. It was really fun and I really enjoyed the race there. I was a bit quite tired today. It was more a fight against myself today to continue push.
These fateful words were to foreshadow the eventual withdrawal from the rest of the season for Tove Alexanderson, as her second places in individual, sprint, vertical and overall rankings dissipated, leaving fans and competitors saddened and wishing the talented Swedish athlete well for a speedy recovery. The sprint in Val Martello was beautiful and tough, in amongst the trees with a very steep downhill. nail-biting from quarter-finals through to the final. In the women's race, it was Emily Harrop who eventually won ahead of Mariana Jegorčíková and Lena Bonnel of France. In the men's sprint, the final was exhilarating, and special mention to the Swiss under-23 athlete Matteo Favre, who finished second behind Oriol Cardona-Coll and ahead of Arnaud Lieta. The final result brought Lieta and Cardona-Coll within 1 point at the top of the sprint rankings, all to play for in the final in France.
Yeah, I'm really happy. I didn't expect anything, and at the end I felt really strong. My legs, they had the day, and at the end I could push a bit more than I expected.
And before we knew it, the final was upon us. Into France for the first time this year to the resort of Flaine, and the spectacular Grand Massif set the stage for the 3 final races to determine speciality rankings and the overall titles for the season. Huge amounts of snow the previous week meant for changes to the course, and yet another beautiful day awaited the racers. In the women's race, Axelle Gachet-Molleret achieved her goal of 7 out of 7 individual wins and took the overall title. No surprise to anyone after an exceptional and flawless season. Giulia Morado of Italy stepped onto the podium for the first time this season in second place, and her compatriot Alba Di Silvestro took her third place of the winter.
Yes, it was just incredible. All the races were really different this year, but I'm really happy to have the 6 and 6. It's just so nice.
The battle, however, was on for the top of the men's individual rankings, with only a few points between Michele Boscacci and Xavier Gachet. As they set off, it was Rémi Bonnet who claimed the front of the race in his vertical specialist way and kept the lead ahead of an incredibly consistent and strong William Bombardier of France. Bonnet kept the veteran Frenchman at bay to win his first individual title, with Davide Magnini in third, and in an exceptional show of team spirit, Matteo Edalin let Michele Boscacci cross the line ahead of him in fourth to pick up some extra points. It wasn't enough, however, as the Gachet household did the double, with Xavier picking up enough points to lift the coveted Crystal Globe in the men's competition.
Yeah, I knew that I was in shape for this weekend. I really tried to make the pace from the beginning and to kill the order in the uphill, because I knew that in the downhill I have still to improve a bit. So I took the advantage where I was feeling good, and then at the end I had a bit of gap to secure the win.
Vertical day dawned wild and windy, and the racers battered their way up the 520-metre course as Axelle Gachet-Molleret and Rémi Bonnet did the double-double, both with 2 wins in 2 days and both taking the overall title for the season. And then it all came down to the sprint race. By now, Emily Harrop was guaranteed the overall season title, but she still had to hang on to the overall sprint title as Mariana Jegorčíková was ready to grab it at any moment. Nothing to fear though. The French athlete was in perfect control of every moment from quarter-final to final and looked cool, calm and collected as she beamed her way across the finish line to finish her season of dreams.
I can't believe what's going on today. I'm just so happy. I mean, I was pretty nervous again today because I knew that I had the overall ranking, but the sprint it wasn't already done, and plus I kind of wanted to do a really good race in France for the last one. I had my family here, I had lots of people I knew, and so I really wanted to go and get a great result here. So it's just like an explosion of emotions today. It's brilliant.
The men's sprint was in fact 3 incredibly exciting races in one. The battle for the race itself was won by Arnaud Lieta after a transition error by Oriol Cardona-Coll in the final, which in turn led the Swiss athlete to win the overall sprint title for the second year in a row. A thrill for him, but disappointment for the Spaniard after an exceptional season of racing.
I knew I have to win to win the globe, and so I gave it my all, and yeah, I'm really happy it worked out. Yeah, it was an incredible fight the whole season, but it's good to have a fight like this with always with fair play, and it made fun. Yeah.
The third element of this final race was between Michele Boscacci and Thibaut Anselmet. With only 37 points between them on the last day of the season, the Frenchman had a good chance of claiming victory this year as the far better sprinter. Boscacci, however, put in the performance of the winter in his least favourite discipline, and despite not making the final, kept enough points to claim his first overall title since 2018. Both Michele Boscacci and Emily Harrop delighted us all this winter with their determination and athletic prowess. It takes something special to be at the top of the tree in this particular talent pool, and this year it was a young French woman and one of the sport's most well-known Italians who made it. Of course, that's not forgetting the exceptional racing, great sportsmanship, camaraderie, rivalry and athleticism of all the athletes that kept SkiMo fans glued to the competition all winter. The sport is going from strength to strength, and with the successful addition of the live streaming, is in good shape to expand into an even longer and more involved season in 2023. We'll be back at the end of this year with another exciting ski mountaineering season. Thanks for joining us. See you then.